I would assume this is a hugely important job for a draft for Andrew Berry relative to his job. 3-14, you don't often survive. They did.
No, it was a great mulligan they were given, and it's the 6th year of his regime. He and Kevin Stefanski, and you could say, well, there are 2 playoff appearances there, but you're in the 6th year and you still haven't gotten higher than second place in your division. So yeah, I guess it's not surprising that they both came back because they had a really good year the year before. Mm-hmm. And I think the ownership is still kind of a little traumatized by the early going of their ownership, where there was a new coach and GM every year.
And they should be.
Yeah.
So you look at it. The quarterback play was historically bad, however you want to measure that. Does that make the roster look worse than it is, or is this roster in need of an overhaul? These are tough questions.
It is, and it's going to dictate how long it takes the Browns to compete again. If you overrate your roster, you're just spinning your wheels, right? It's a tough call. It really is, because I think a lot of things went down. They weren't a 3-14. They were at the end. The quarterback. They were. That Baltimore game, the last game of the year, they had 3 guys on the field who hadn't played a down of football all year. They just picked them up during the week. So, that's the lasting impression everyone has. But when I think back to the beginning of training camp at the Greenbrier, I had high hopes.
Yeah.
As well as they did. But once Watson didn't pan out, everything crashed after that.
And you built the offense to have him succeed. And that how much of that resulted in the offensive line looking like they were a little bit older?
They've answered that question by firing the coordinator and the offensive line coach, right? That was a concession that they tried to fix something that wasn't broke. And they tried to do it for Watson's behalf, and it blew up in their face. So now they're trying to recapture what they had before, which was, a pretty good offense when Joe Flacco was flinging the ball. And the offensive line was really good when Bill Callahan was the coach. So that's the biggest concession they've made in this offseason, that they screwed that up.
Do you think the offense in that, because you had so many 3-and-outs, you didn't have explosive plays, does that make the defense look
Absolutely,
bad?
Absolutely. I think the defense was good enough to be a playoff defense. It wasn't dominating, but it was a good defense. But they're on the field so much that just blows. The same thing happened to the Tennessee Titans. They had a good defensive first half of the year, and it just wore them down. The same thing. So there aren't a lot of, I don't know, I hesitate to say this, but there are fewer problems on defense, obviously, than on offense.
Well, obviously one of the huge concerns is, can Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah come back and play football? And I have no. You're closer to it than I am, but when they say he's going for other opinions, that's not what I want to hear.
Maybe we'll get some clarity here about his future. We haven't so far, but you're right. That's a very overlooked omission now on the defense, and they didn't have a lot of great linebackers to begin with. And then there's the Myles Garrett question. But other than that, the defense is repairable. Right. In one off season. The offense, I don't think, is repairable in one off season.
When you look at it, quarterback is a glaring need. The other thing that I see, and again, I respect your opinion, I don't see a lot of guys that I want the ball in their hands and that make a defense go, man, that we got to figure out a way to stop this guy.
Right. Jerry Jeudy came. Right. He convinced me he's a true number one. And Njoku had a terrible year. He's got to be back.
Healthy.
He's got to get back to what he was. He's a playmaking tight end. And now they have to address the running back situation, because even if Nick Chubb comes back, and there's uncertainty about that, he's not the Nick Chubb of old, and probably will never be that player. So I think running back in the draft has become a priority for this team for the first time under the Berry regime.
The other thing that I'm guessing they're probably going to take another receiver, and they've traded for good receivers.
Yeah.
They haven't they haven't hit one in the draft yet.
And that's the problem. They should be coming into their own. They got a guy named Michael Woods who they drafted, who should be in his third year and be a player. He's not. Jamari Thrash they drafted last year. They need those young players to ascend. And at that position, it's been one of the blind spots of the Barry regime. You're right. They've traded for some good, but you can't make a living trading for high-priced receivers.